first two speakers are Josh Collins and Lou Noble.
Mr. Collins, Mr. Noble, are you out there in the audience? Okay, they must have left. Can you call the next two speakers, please?
Madeline Spencer and Dylan Thompson.
Good afternoon, Chairman Bartlett and members of the Board of Supervisors. My name is Madeline Spencer, and I am here with Project Homelessness, and I'm here to present a petition with over 1,586 signatures. There's 249 of which are from people who are homeless in Orange County. Who do I give this to?
The clerk.
Okay. In December, you guys are speaking today about hypotheticals and potential threats of terrorism. And right now, on December, the OC Board of Supervisors approved a $500,000 action plan to provide emergency shelter for people living outdoors during the El Nino storms. This funding included a plan to provide 440 beds for people living in Santa Ana's riverbed. The action plan did not account for the hundreds of people living in the Santa Ana Civic Center or elsewhere in the county. The county did not keep its promise to provide those 440 beds, and the storms that have already put people's lives, people living outside at risk. During the first wave of El Nino storms in early January, some parts of Orange County were hit with more than 2.5 inches of rain. The storms flooded streets and storm channels. The rare waterspout appeared off the coast of San Clemente and briefly turned into a tornado when it hit land. Knox Berry Farm and Magic Mountain closed their doors. Voluntary evacuations orders were issued in Silverado Canyon. The county and cities put out free sandbags to residents in Santa Ana. Floodwaters rose up to 8 inches above the curb, and in the 100 block of East Russell Avenue. People experiencing homelessness were left to their own devices without access to safe and dry emergency sites. The storms are truly a health and safety emergency for them. We call on the OC Board of Supervisors to keep its promise and to immediately designate emergency sites for all people living outdoors in the El Nino storms. There was a person here in Civic Center named Tammy who already passed away during this period. We also have an outbreak of Shigella and MRSA in the Civic Center currently, which is contractable through door handles and through all different things. This is your area that you're in, and all of these things happen because of weather conditions and what's going on, and it affects every single person. So if we're talking about public safety, it affects everybody in the room. We'd like you to look at what we've brought for you, and we'd like you to do something immediately. We know we're talking about expediting the OCTA building, and we'd like you to make a public statement saying such, because right now that $500,000 is doing nothing. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Our next speaker.
Next speaker is Eve, and after that is Jennifer Rojas.
Chairwoman Bartlett and members of the Board of Supervisors. My name is Eve Garrow, and I'm here representing the ACLU of Southern California Dignity for All project. I am also here today with Madeline to present the petition with over 1,500 signatures, 249 of which are from people who are homeless in Orange County. The county's process for providing these emergency sites for people living outdoors during El Nino storms raises many questions. Those who have signed the petition call on the Board of Supervisors to answer these questions in the spirit of government transparency and accountability. First, we ask, why did the county contract out this critical public health and safety function to a private organization that does not have the authority to open emergency sites and has struggled to do so? Second, what is the county's backup plan should the private contractor be unable to obtain the promised 440 beds during the next wave of El Nino storms? And third, what will the county do to ensure that all of the 2,000 plus homeless people living outdoors have a safe and dry refuge during the next El Nino storms? Concerned residents, both housed and homeless, deserve answers to these questions, And we do hope that this petition will provide a voice for the hundreds of people experiencing homelessness who signed it. One such person is Adele. She's 83 years old. She lives next to the Hall of Administration, and she signed the petition. When asked how she fared during the first wave of El Nino storms, she said, "I went along as usual. I've been through rains before. I had an umbrella, but I still got wet. My jacket got totally soaked. It stuck to my body. I didn't know whether to throw my things away or to try to dry them. I hung them out, and it took a few days for them to dry. During that time, I was cold and wet." So I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Jennifer Rojas.
Chairwoman Bartlett and members of the Board of Supervisors, my name is Jennifer Rojas, and I'm a member and represent the ACLU of Southern California. I'm here today to present a petition, along with my colleagues, with 15,000 signatures, 249 of which are from people who are homeless in Orange County. The petition calls on the Orange County Board of Supervisors to keep its promise and immediately designate emergency sites for all people living outdoors during the El Nino storms. During the first El Nino storms, the county did not keep its promise, leaving people who live outdoors exposed to the elements. In the petition, we also call on the board to recognize the need for affordable, permanent, and supportive housing. People who are currently living in our riverbeds, plazas, parks, and other outdoor locations would not be in need of emergency services during the El Nino storms if they were safely housed in their own permanent, affordable housing. The board must ensure that its own 10-year plan to end homelessness and housing first strategy is fully funded and implemented to avoid such public health and safety catastrophes in the future. Thank you for your time.
Next speaker, please.
Gosh, I hope it wouldn't be that long. All right.
Good to see you.
Good to see you, Michelle.
Quick question, mister. When will the shelters, emergency shelters, will be open for the next storm to come?
That's in Supervisor Doe's district. I'm very supportive. I voted to support that.
Yeah.
And all those questions, he is the lead supervisor. You need to defer those to Supervisor Doe. But I'm completely supportive.
Okay, thank you.
All right. All right, here we go.
So you can't film right here, you can film inside or wherever, but not.
Judicial system. Our campaign is aimed at having prosecutors who maliciously prosecute innocent people by withholding exculpatory evidence be criminally processed and prosecuted. How can prosecutors claim immunity when they commit criminal offenses? So right now the world is questioning, how are you going to handle the situation? I hope that this board has the right answers to the questions. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes our.
I came late. Could I speak? My name is Nino.
He was
Just
called.
a quick.
Your name was already called and you weren't present.
Yes,
Sorry.
because of the parking situation here. You have to go every hour to put a dime or things like that. That's part of the problem why sometimes some of us get
Okay,
late here.
I'll allow you to speak in this one instance.
Yes.
Go ahead, make it
Just
quick.
quick question. You know that the homeless situation, chronically homeless situation, is getting worse. The percentage of deaths are risen in the past year because there is no shelters, no city shelters. There was $19.5 million last year that went to the nonprofits or contractors, and contractors are just sitting there, and there's no shelter still. I know you're trying your best to pass these shelters, that they're needed right now because people are dying out there. This last storm, people got sick, and they're still sick out there. Some people have pneumonia, and they need to get out. They need to get out of that coldness that is going on every day. It's not just the rain, but we need this emergency. This is an emergency. There's people out there dying. So if you could please expedite these shelters. I know it. I know. You're trying, and it's bureaucratic to go through all this to try to open a place up. But please, if you could just rush it, because it's needed. Homelessness is getting to be where, we're having an epidemic now. And I know the community doesn't understand who's out there: veterans, disabled, elderly people, abusive, people that are coming from abusive homes. And there's all kinds of issues, people that lost their homes, their jobs. And they're our citizens, our brothers and sisters out there. And they need help, like now. We've been coming up here for the past year and urging to please open, some shelters. This first shelter that's going to be open is not going to be until summertime. By then, a lot of people will have died. Thank you.
All right, thank you. That concludes our public comments portion of the agenda. We'll now move on to CEO comments first.